Imagine for a moment, you're locked in a maximum security prison cell, convicted of crimes you never committed, at 78 years old, knowing you might die in there. And then you do something that shocks the entire world. This is a real story of how the most powerful man in the Australian Catholic Church forgave those who destroyed him, even while behind bars for crimes he never committed. Before we continue, if you believe in justice, truth, and the power of forgiveness, hit that like button now, and stay until the end, because what happened at the High Court will leave you speechless. To understand the magnitude of the story, we need to know George Pell. We're not talking about just anyone. Born in 1941 in small-town Ballarat, Australia, Pell dedicated his entire life to the church. He became a priest, then bishop, archbishop, until reaching the Vatican as one of Pope Francis's closest advisors. As prefect of the economy of the Vatican, Pell controlled the finances of one of the world's richest organizations. He was reforming centuries-old financial systems, fighting internal corruption. But there was something that bothered many powerful people. Pell was meddling where he shouldn't, discovering secrets, blocking schemes, making enemies, and then, in the middle of a global wave of scandals in the Catholic Church, something happens that would change everything. In 2017, when Pell was at the height of his power in the Vatican, accusations emerged, not one, not two, but several, of historical sexual abuse, supposedly occurring decades before. The Australian media goes crazy. Headlines explode. The most powerful man of the church in Australia becomes a nation's #1 villain. December 2018, Pell is found guilty by a jury. The charge? Sexual abuse of 2 choir boys at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Melbourne in the 1990s. But pay attention to the details, because they are crucial. First, Pell allegedly committed these crimes right after celebrating Sunday Mass, still wearing his heavy vestments, in a room that was constantly occupied by staff. Second, the alleged victims themselves described scenarios that experts considered physically impossible. Third, dozens of witnesses confirmed that Pell was always accompanied after Masses, following strict protocols. But the jury decided, guilty, sentence, 6 years in prison. March 2019. At 77 years old, the third most powerful man in the Vatican is taken to Bar 1 maximum security prison, the same prison where Australia's most dangerous criminals are held. Imagine the humiliation. A man who spent his life serving God, who conducted ceremonies for millions of faithful, now sharing space with murderers and drug dealers. The media celebrates. Activists party. The monster was finally where he deserved to be. But what Pell did in prison will shock you. While his lawyers fought in the appeals court, while the media continued the massacre, Pell did something extraordinary. He began writing letters. Not letters of anger. Not letters of revenge. Letters of forgiveness. In one of these letters, which leaked years later, Pell wrote, "For those who falsely accuse me, I know they too are victims of a system that failed. I forgive them, for they know not what they do." A man of almost 80 years, innocent, unjustly imprisoned, praying for his own accusers. April 2020. After 13 months in prison, the unthinkable happens. Australia's High Court, the highest court in the country, decides to review the case unanimously. 7 judges. All agreed there was something terribly wrong with his conviction. George Pell's story teaches us devastating lessons about our society. First lesson. The media can destroy innocent lives. For months, newspapers and TV treated Pell as guilty before the trial even ended. Second lesson. The judicial system is not infallible. Juries can be influenced by collective hysteria and prejudice. Third lesson. Truth can be suppressed but never permanently destroyed. But the most powerful lesson comes from Pell himself. In a society obsessed with revenge, cancellation, and destroying reputations, a man of almost 80 years showed us what true forgiveness is. Pell didn't just forgive his accusers. He prayed for them, even in prison, even while suffering one of the greatest injustices in Australian judicial history. This story forces us to ask difficult questions. How many other innocent people are being destroyed by false accusations? How many times do we believe the media without questioning? And the most important question, if we were unjustly convicted, will we have the strength to forgive our accusers? George Pell returned to the Vatican, where he continues serving quietly. He never sued anyone for defamation. He never sought revenge. He simply forgave and moved on. This is the difference between real greatness and mediocrity, between wisdom and anger, between light and darkness. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about justice, forgiveness, and truth, hit that like button now. Share this video. The world needs to know this story. It needs to understand that truth always wins, even if it takes time. And in the comments, tell me, could you forgive in a situation like this? If you made it this far, you're different from most people. You seek truth, even when it's inconvenient. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because we'll continue telling the stories that others are afraid to tell. Until the next video. And remember, truth is not afraid of investigation.